Welcome to Wibble, and welcome to a special edition of the show. Here is a warning. Listening to classic video game music may be considered nerdy at best, but now we are going to a whole new level. Some of you may not be man or woman enough to handle this. Some may shake their heads, others may hold their ears. But in the end, the single channel beeper of the ZX Spectrum will be heard. I'm sure many of you might wish to skip this episode, but for those people who grew up with the beeps and boops, this is dedicated to you all. So, warming us up was the music from Barbarian, a controversial game in its day, not because of the gore factor, but the use of scantily clad page 3 model Maria Whittaker on the cover. It was a good one-on-one beat 'em up. Lopping off heads was a lot of fun when you pulled it off, and the music sounded an awful lot like Conan the Barbarian. No coincidence there, I suppose. Next up is the Sacred Armour of Antiriad, another game by Palace Software, preceding Barbarian by a year. It was a platform adventure typical of the period, with your primitive hero gaining the ability to fly around in a robotic suit of armour. Savage was a game that should have caused more of a stir than it did when it was released. For the humble specky, the action was fast, the sprites were big and the graphics were just superbly colourful. It had a very arcadey feel to it, but for me it just lacked something in the gameplay. Also, I had a demo of the first level which I couldn't complete, and when you can't complete a demo, why buy the game? Still, it made stunning use of the Spectrum's very limited sound capabilities. One of those all-time classic games, Thanatos had you in control of a dragon, flying over a pseudo 3D landscape, occasionally stopping to pick up and drop villagers from a great height, or just breathe fire in their general direction. Fantastic. Clones were rife in the days of the Specky, and Marble Madness spawned several, the best probably being Melbourne House's Gyroscope. Quirky and fun, it also had a few memorable tunes, and luckily enough I have them all here for your listening pleasure. Based on the film of the same name, Cobra was an oddly cartoony platform beat-em-up. I played it a fair bit but never really got that far because it was frickin' impossible. The music may be familiar to C64 owners as it was used for Arkanoid. Another tune from Savage Now. Lots of music in that game. Good stuff.
You hose him, please.
Hose him.
Ouch. Sorry for springing that one on you. It was, of course, Fat Worm Blows a Sparky, one of the best game titles ever. The game itself, not so great, but the worm animation was kind of cool. The music is memorable to me because years back my dad managed to pick it up on his CB radio by mistake while I was playing it in my bedroom. Very odd. On now to Heavy on the Magick. From the creators of Tir na Nog, Dundalk and Marsport, it featured the same large, well-animated but blocky graphics. The gameplay was interesting, mixing the text inputs from a normal adventure with graphics more akin to an action-adventure game. There were a few Batman games on the Spectrum. The one most people remember is probably the Nightlore-esque 3D version, but we should not forget Ocean's Batman the Caped Crusader. An action puzzle adventure, the presentation was superb, with areas represented as comic book style frames that would fade out but stay on screen as you moved around. And with 2 stories to choose from, it represented great value for money. Trantor was one of those games with big sprites and fast action. But suffering a similar fate to Savage, it looked great but left you feeling that it could have been more. But the 48K music was well up to scratch at least. Well, that's it for this special presentation. I hope it didn't make your ears bleed too much. If, like me, you grew up with a Spectrum, then I'm sure this has brought back a few good memories at least, and perhaps prompted you to get out an emulator and fire up some of those forgotten classics. Until next time, I leave you with the opening music to Savage. Farewell, Spec Chums.
Yazov from the Odin Computer Graphics team.